Hey, what's up everyone? Nick here with The Last Coat. Today's video I wanted to talk to you guys about using a DA buffer, a dual action buffer, and what pads to be using and what type of pads there are out there to actually use. So I got the panel out here in the sun. This is one of our test panels. We do a lot of chemical testing on it. It's very, very swirled. It's never been like polished or anything. And at one point in time, because it's aluminum, it got picked up by the wind and it got thrown down my driveway. So you can see these gnarly gouges in it. That stuff is not fixable. It is all the way down to the aluminum. So our panel is never going to be perfect, but I wanted to show you guys how to eliminate or lessen these swirl marks. I mean, this is bad looking in the sun. No one wants their paint to look like this. So let's get right after it and show you guys what you can do about it. So now we have the hood in the garage here, and we have it under our garage lights. Now these single lights right here, these are LEDs. These are 1000 lumen, I believe. They aren't extremely powerful, but they are the right type of LED to pick up swirls, so you can see how much swirls they're actually picking up. You can see this other LED strip light here is 5000 lumens, but it is a different style LED and Kelvin scale color than the single one over here. So in reality, this one picks up more oxidation than really swirls. So you can, having both these lights near each other really help you, as well as you can see more watermarks with this style. This one is just a LED, I don't know, but again, different Kelvin scale, it's much more yellow. So again, you can see a little bit more different hue in the paint. Over here, we actually have the fluorescent lighting, and again, very similar to the LED strip lighting, but you can't see really as much in the fluorescence, in my opinion, as other ones allow you. So not the best for paint correction at all. Paint that's not really that bad, but it's still swirled up, will still probably look okay under one of those lights. These lights over here will definitely pick it up and show you the reality of it. So again, you can see how messed up the paint is here. Certainly worse in other areas where it took the tumble down the driveway. Again, as we move over, you can see the swirls we're picking up. So again, not so bad over here, but as we get back, there's a lot of swirling in the paint. So we're going to see what we can remove out of here with certain types of pads.
If you've never used a buffer, they're probably pretty intimidating. A lot of people are scared to burn their paint, add more swirl marks, and that kind of thing. So I wanted to at least get you on the right path and get you started and get you proficient with a buffer relatively quick. You don't need to be scared of it. You just need to know the right things and the right ways to use it. So let's talk about the buffers and the pads and the compounds first. Then we will get after tackling this hood that I have in front of me as well. And we can see the difference between a one-step paint correction, which I prefer to call a paint enhancement, or just light polish work. Also, a lot of different terminologies in this world. People understand what every one of them means. So one-step paint correction, paint enhancement, light paint polishing, all referring to relatively the same thing. Swirl reduction, not eliminating all the swirls. A full-on paint correction is going to be a mixture probably of someone who's wet sanding and someone who's using a polisher with a very aggressive compound and pad, and then they refine it down in steps to finer foams and finer polishes to bring out a mere high gloss finish. So, you know, you may hear different terminologies, but we're going to stick to those terms, and I'm going to use them, and now you know what I'm talking about. So first up here, let's talk about the pads that we have. We have foam pads. This one is a blue Roots foam pad. This is a very aggressive pad, has a very open cell, cell being the texture of the foam and how closed it is, and like how much water it could ultimately suck up. So something that's pretty aggressive, it's not going to hold a lot of water because it's actually pretty porous, and it's very rough, so you can actually hear it. It's kind of like, I don't know, like a pumice stone feeling, if you will. So we have one like that. Then we have these as well. This is also a Roots pad. This is a Roots fine pad. And I prefer to do a lot of one-step polishing with these pads, as well as do finish polishing with these pads as well. So we have one for a 3-inch, which is for this buffer. We have one for a 5-inch head, which is this Roots here. And then we also have a 6-inch. These are all the exact same texture of foam, being fine pads. The 6-inch can go onto this one here. We also have another 6-inch, and some of our pads have a very tapered edge versus others. Some are even straight up and down. I prefer the tapered edges for getting up into rolls of areas, you can get this edge closer to things without hitting things with the buffer head or anything like that. So sometimes that can come in handy, but predominantly you're going to find a cut edge that's going to look just like that. Next up, we have microfiber pads. We have a 3-inch and a 5-inch. We also have these in 6-inch. I didn't have any right now. I'm actually have some on order, so I couldn't show you those, but they would go on to this 6-inch head right here. So microfiber is going to be in the way of probably like medium aggression would be the best way I could describe it. So it's going to remove more swirls and defects than a pad like the foam one over here, but it could leave a little bit of hazing depending upon how soft the paint actually is. If the paint is really hard, like European clear coats, you can pretty much just always get away with a microfiber pad on a 1-step, and it's going to look pretty good on black paint. If you get Japanese and Asian paints, they're much softer. Even some domestic stuff like Chevy blacks can be very soft, and you're going to leave a haze behind even after removing the swirls. So to clean up the haze, you would then come back with one of these yellow pads or another different type of foam pad that's a fine with a less aggressive polish to clean that up. The next one we have is a wool pad. And this wool here is going to be very aggressive. It's going to generate a lot of heat. So you do have to be a lot more careful when using one of these pads. And they also tend to vibrate a little bit more than what a microfiber or a foam one does as well. So they're very, very good on flat surfaces, but can get a little awkward on a rolled surface. So if you're doing real tight areas, you would need to get like a 3-inch wool pad on your 3-inch head to get into a rolled area, or this is just going to vibrate and be very, very bad and probably eat up your buffer eventually. And just hard on your body to polish. So you can use these to remove really, really deep defects. I have even seen some clear coats, Mercedes, that are so hard that you can actually get away with a 1-step with one of these wools on black and it looks okay. But again, you're going to have to do test passes because not every clear coat is going to be as hard as soft as the next one. So pretty basic rule of thumb though, in my experiences on most cars, if you're doing a 2-step paint correction, which is going to be a paint correction which is going to get you 90 to 100% of the swirls and defects out of the surface on a generalized vehicle, is going to be starting with a microfiber pad and a heavy cutting polish like the last cut here, made by the Last Detail Nevada, and then followed up with one of these foam pads here and using a finishing polish like Sonax's Perfect Finish. This does remove some swirling, but more of a haze remover and a high gloss finish than removing swirls. So that's that. If we're doing a 1-step, another good choice for most paints is something like 3D1. It cuts and polishes all in 1 step. So if you were to grab a microfiber pad on hard paint or even like medium paint, you'd be able to finish it right down in 1 step and it would look pretty good. You're going to get probably 70 to 90% of the swirl marks out of the surface with something like that. If you have softer paint, you're going to grab one of these foam pads, still using the 1 step there, and you might even achieve near 90 to 100% removal. Again, it just depends on how deep the swirls are and how soft or hard the paint actually is. So now let's talk about the buffers that we have in front of us. So this one has a 3-inch head, as well as the oscillation being how much this actually moves around. It doesn't just spin on the center point. It does spin on a center point, but it also oscillates. This one is a 12mm oscillation. This will actually cut paint pretty well with a microfiber pad. You could burn through paint with something like this if you just continued to stay there. The next up here is the Roops 15 that I have. The 15 refers to, again, it spins on its center axis, but it also oscillates. And the oscillation is the dual action portion. So when you hear dual action buffer, it's this motion right here. This one is a 15mm oscillation, or also known as 15mm throw, so you can see. Then we have the Roops 21, and I'm sure at this point you now understand that the oscillation on this one is going to be a 21mm throw. Again, still does spin on an axis, but has an oscillation there, so you aren't just focusing directly in one spot and burning the paint. So these are very, very safe to use when using the proper cautions and the proper procedures. You don't really have to be scared. Next up, we have the Roops Nano. This can switch between 2 different dual action throws, and as well as can be changed into a rotary mode. If you're starting out with buffers, you really don't want to use a rotary. I only have them out here just so that you understand what a rotary is, and you really want to stick to the dual action. Once you get proficient with the dual action, you can start messing around with the rotary and see what you can do from there. So this one's actually in rotary mode, and rotary mode means it is literally spinning on a direct axis point. It does not oscillate. The DeWalt here is probably the most common rotary buffer you're going to see. Makita, Flex make them. Again, these are for pretty experienced people or also doing metal polishing and things like that. Or when you get proficient with paint correction, you're going to start with a rotary and you're going to finish stuff down with a dual action. But again, for the premise of this video and you guys starting out, stick to the dual action world. You're going to get great results. Don't be fooled by some of these guys that run rotaries and say that dual actions are not proficient and that kind of thing. They are wrong, and they're just trying to scare you into believing the rotary is a better tool. They've worked with this for many years. They might not have the experience with these dual actions. They are very capable machines. So let's get right after it and see what we can do on this hood here. So I have the panel sectioned off in 3 areas. This is going to be the original side so we can see what the hood actually looked like. If you remember correctly, we had it really bad here, and then as it kind of went towards the front of the hood, it wasn't as bad. So we'll see much more heavy swirling in this area of the hood. The center section here, I'm going to do a 1-step paint correction with a relatively heavy cutting polish. This is the Last Cut Plus from the Last Detail Nevada. Since it's a German, this is an Audi hood, it's German clear coat, it's going to be pretty hard. So we're going to hit it with this and the foam to demonstrate what a 1-step polish will give you. And then we'll do a full paint correction, or what I'm going to call a full paint correction for this is a 2-step polish on this. So a heavy cut and then a foam pad to finally polish it out. And we're going to be able to see the difference in the LEDs here in the garage as well as out in the sun. So let's get right after it. I would shake up our compounds really good. We're going to put 4 drops onto our pad here. We're going to smear our compound out across the surface because compounds, the majority of them have diminishing abrasives, not all of them, but this one has a diminishing abrasive. So if we just plopped it right down without smearing it out, we would diminish the cutting power of the compound relatively quickly. Spreading it out, we get a bigger working surface. Our buffer has adjustable speeds on it, 1 to 6. We're going to start right out at 6. 6 is going to be the heaviest way to cut this down quickly. And we're using the 21mm throw on this with the foam pad because for a 1-step, you're going to be going through it relatively quickly. You're not going to want to have the vehicle for an extended period of time. So the 21 gives you a bigger footprint to actually cut down the paint. We're not going for greatness. We're just making this thing look good. So here we go. And when I am also doing a 1-step or a full-on paint correction, and I'm wiping off my compound to see what I've done, I do always leave a line so that I know where I've stopped and started. And it's pretty evident with the swirling on the paint, but if you don't have great lighting, this is another way to see where you've already polished. Just leave a light line and then you know you just start and continue to go from there. So already we got a lot of the garbage out of the surface. I'm going to continue on and do that section, and then we will do the full paint correction and check it out in the sun. I use too is a gun brush. I use the toothbrush side, or even a toothbrush would work as well, to clean out my foam pads. The gun brush side that is the stiff bristled is what I use to clean out the microfiber and wool pads, but I literally just turn on the machine. And clean out the pad like that. Every time you're done polishing, you want to clean out the pad so that you have a fresh pad surface to cut down the paint. If you let the pad get all clogged up, you're going to have poor results. It's going to be very, very hazy looking, and you're not going to be removing swirls. You're just going to be adding damage to the surface pretty much. So keep your stuff clean. Again, we're going to spread out our compound. We actually got a lot of the swirling out of there. Like I told you before, it can really depend on how soft or hard the paint is, on what we're going to achieve. So now we're going to do the two-step over here and see what the difference is on the paint surface. If you are using a used microfiber pad that you've washed, I do always recommend to fluff up the fibers before cutting. But just like the foam pad, we're going to put 4 dots. And again, we're going to smear out our compound. And start cutting. And you can see we have a body line right here. It is kind of like a V shape. It's going down and rising up over here. So we're just going to kick the buffer over slightly, or we would be grabbing our 3-inch buffer with our 3-inch microfiber, and we would hit this channel. But for the premise of this, we're just going to work and manipulate the 5-inch head into this small valley here.
We are making sure that our head is still spinning. We don't want it stalling out. If it stalls out, we're still cutting, but we're not cutting as efficiently.
Sure, you can see that's quite the difference than when we started. We're going to continue on to the other area. Again, we're going to clean out our pad in the same manner.
So I wonder if you guys can see a big difference already, which I'm pretty sure you can. Now we're going to hit this with finishing polish. And for the finish polish, I'm going to be using Sonak's Perfect Finish with the Roots Yellow Foam Pad. We're going to apply a similar amount, 4 drops, just like what we did with the last one. The only difference this time is this polishing session is going to be much quicker than the first one. So we're going to be able to cover this whole entire area with the amount of polish we have here. Again, we're going to pre-spread it. Give us our best chance to work as far as possible. Here we're going to grab a new microfiber, wipe that off. You do want to keep different microfibers for your aggressive and fine polishes. Once you kind of hear that squeak once you've done a final polish, that pretty much means you have the surface polished out as far as it's probably going to go, or at least very adequate of what you need to be done. So we have a nice rich black color brought back into the surface here. Here so you can see what we're looking at. So granted, the center section did receive more of the brunt of when the thing hit the concrete, but you can see there's much more hazing and things like that in the surface than over here on the two-step side stuff. So that extra polishing procedure, as well as the microfiber pad, did a lot to remove more defects and got rid of the hazing. But you can see where we went from. So huge difference. So 1 step to the 2-step, a lot of the hazing gone, much richer black surface than over here. And again, where it was just garbage. Okay, so now we're back outside with the hood. Got our original side and how everything looked. Now we're into the 1-step area. Huge improvement. I mean, massive. And again, you can see where those heavy scratches that went through the paint are still there. But all in all, huge difference between the original and the 1-step. Then when we get over to the 2-step here, we have a pretty brilliant looking surface. If we were doing this for a paid client, we definitely would have gotten the 3-inch in that valley and really gotten some swirls out of there. I can still see a little bit and some hazing in there, but either way, I think you guys get the basic premise here. So again, we go from the full paint correction, or at least 2-step, which is a majority of full paint corrections, into the 1-step, which is also highly referred to as a paint enhancement. And there's the original. So thank you all for watching. If you have any questions or anything else you would like to see, please drop it in the comments and we will address that for you to the best of our knowledge. And yeah, again, look forward to making more videos for you guys.